Welcome back, panelists here. Marianna Sotomayor, congressional reporter for The Washington Post. Jonathan Martin, senior political columnist for Politico. Brendan Buck, former advisor to House Speakers Ryan and Boehner. And Maria Teresa Kumar, the president of Voto Latino. Look, I want to get into Iowa and the presidential stuff. However, I want to start very quickly with banking crisis. Maria Teresa, you were just saying you were surprised you haven't seen Powell or Yellen out more forcefully already. Jay Powell, the Federal Reserve Chair.
If you look at which bank this is the Silicon Valley Bank. This is the startup bank. This is also oftentimes the Democratic ATM bank of all those investors. And so the fact that you don't have these the investors that invest in the people. So the fact that you don't have someone actually talking from the administration and being so forceful, I do think that what we're going to see are Republicans saying, oh, you shouldn't bail this one out. And it's going to be, I think, very much along political lines.
What have you heard, Marianna? Like, if they've already been like, where's, are people wondering why the administration isn't? Because they've been, and I get it. The other argument is, hey, you don't want to come out too forcefully because it might create a new panic.
Right. A lot of, especially House lawmakers that I know have been briefed on this, but they're still kind of trying to get together all the facts. What should we do? How should we position ourselves? Yeah. And I think leaders are just also starting to get online about this. There hasn't been anything concrete yet as to even reactions, really, from a number of lawmakers, which is significant, right? I think they are not only just trying to understand what to say, but the issue at hand.
I think they're all just hoping that a big bank takes this bank over and takes all of this off of their hands, because I know nobody wants to vote for a bailout. Let me turn to politics. We got a Des Moines Register poll, and what was interesting to me, Jonathan, was how everybody looked at it through the prism of what they want to have happen, right? So you look at, like, Trump's numbers here. You can look at it one way and say, hey, Trump doesn't look as strong as he used to. In June 2021, his definitely probably number was a lot bigger than it is now. But when you look at his net favorable rating, you sit there and say, oh, look, it's dropped from September of 21. It's in Iowa. It's down from plus 84 to plus 62. And then when you put it in a ranking with the other candidates that were tested in this Des Moines Register poll, Trump is plus 62, just below DeSantis. Those aren't weak numbers to me. They're just not as strong as they used to be. Trump doesn't look weak, does he?
No, he's somebody who would win out there, but he wouldn't win by 30. He'd win by 15 in a divided race. And that's the key, of course, right? The numbers that weren't tested in that poll, I think all of us want to see is what's the head-to-head Trump versus DeSantis, especially if it's just those two or at least, a group of 4 or 5. I think that's going to be the more revealing number. For a race that seems to revolve around Donald Trump, I actually think the next 6 months are going to be more about DeSantis. And here's why. I think if he can prove his mettle, and it's clear that he is the alternative to Trump,
for now,
we're going to know that. And I think if that's the case, this race gets a lot more clear. It's more of a head-to-head race. If he's not that clear alternative, if he can't take a punch and throw a punch in a Republican primary, not against the left, not against the media, but in his own party, then it's going to be a more complicated race.
Brendan, you're nodding.
Yeah, I mean, look, Ron DeSantis is clearly the alternative, and the argument for anybody other than Ron DeSantis is pretty thin at this point. But he is very untested. Yeah. And there is something that I think every successful candidate for the presidency in recent years has had, something that's called charisma. And we don't know if Ron DeSantis is able to connect with people yet. He obviously is able to animate the Republican base, but when you're running for president, you're under that spotlight. People want to see whether you have the emotional appeal. And Joe Biden, Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, everybody had it, and it's unclear if he does. And when Donald Trump comes swinging at you, you're going to have to respond.
It is, I hate to bring that up, he doesn't pass the beer test, DeSantis, right? He just doesn't, right? George W. Bush, and people used to make fun of that, but that, to some people, that matters.
Absolutely. Well, and it's also about likability. I think one of the reasons, and that's what we're getting at. But, oftentimes people say that DeSantis is a strong opponent to the Democrats because he is where woke goes to die. And the challenge that he doesn't realize is that woke is what got Americans ACA. Woke is what basically wants to make sure that people have gay marriage. Woke is what gives women agency over their bodies. Woke is making sure that a child is in their classroom is not fearful that they're going to lose their life. And that is actually juxtaposed to what the majority of Americans actually want.
Sounds like you think Democrats should retake woke, fight for it, rather than sort of ignore the attacks.
Right. I mean, corporations actually want woke, right? They don't want a DeSantis regulating what they can and cannot say. Look at what's happening with Disney right now. And this is an opportunity for them not only to reclaim it, but to recognize that it is actually their strength. It is what got Joe Biden to the White House because it animated not just women, but it animated a whole generation of young people.
This woke issue, Marianna, it's the only thing that keeps Republicans united, whatever it means.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, you ask them what does woke mean, and they really can't give you a firm answer just because what does woke mean, right? And I think the interesting thing about DeSantis, too, is yes, he's been able to do all of these things in Florida, but the closest lesson we have is the midterms, where we saw in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, key swing states, a lot of Republicans or Republicans who went independent or even moderate Republicans saying, I don't want Trump. I don't want someone who's acting like Trump. I just completely reject this extremism, which, to your point, Democrats are totally looking forward to have that debate and frame both of them.
Well, that's the question. I don't know if DeSantis is going to be talking to swing voters. Here's like one of the things he said in Vegas yesterday. Take a listen to this.
We're also the first state in the country to establish every November 10th, the day in our schools is earmarked to teach our students at all grade levels about the evils of communist regimes throughout history. We're going to tell the truth about Marxism and Leninism.
In Miami.
You know, Jonathan, it's sort of like, look, being a Floridian, I sort of know what he's trying to play there and all of that. But I would tell him, I went to Florida public schools. You know, we were taught this. It was called history. Right. It just seems like a weird politicizing. You know, he's going out of his way to politicize something.
But Chuck, you said it, right? Donald Trump is to Democrats what wokeism is to the GOP. It is the singular, cohesive, unifying force, okay? The backlash to the perceived excess of the left, which is basically what wokeism is, okay, is what galvanizes the GOP right now. It's not any policy agenda, it's that. So, of course, he's playing into that. Here's something that I've noticed talking to voters and donors alike about DeSantis, which is going to help him. They want him to be the guy. They're almost grading him on a curve because they so want this to work. They almost want to will this to be the real deal against Trump. And that helps him because even if he goes to Iowa and he's not great on the rope line, they still want it to happen.
You know, Brendan, I am curious. You know, there was a cocoon of protectors around Obama when Hillary Clinton attacked him in 2008.
Yes.
Will there be a cocoon of protectors of DeSantis if Trump comes after him?
And Jonathan and I were talking about this earlier. He is the one person when Donald Trump swings at him that people are like, whoa, 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 whoa.
It's
like,
different.
If he hits Mitch McConnell or if he hits Nikki Haley, it's that's pretty funny. But if you hit Ron DeSantis, it's like, well, we don't hit other Republicans. It's like, since when? That speaks to something that people, like Jonathan said, people are rooting for him. Whether that is ultimately a good thing or a bad thing for him is an issue.
And just real fast, watch for a group of hardliners in the House to come out for DeSantis and give him some insulation on the right to protect against Trump.
I would say that the only Republican voter that really matters on DeSantis and Trump is Rupert Murdoch. And you actually see Fox News pivoting to DeSantis.
They've tried it before. We'll see if they can pull it off.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.